Good morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the National Family Service. We're so happy you've joined us today. My name is Jennifer Pierce, and I'll be your host. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone who joined us and our first timers and our regulars to our international family movement founded by Father and Mother Moon, whom we affectionately call our true parents. They've invested their lives into building a world of peace centered on the marriage blessing and God-centered families. And you can learn more about that by typing #connect in the Facebook chat down below or visit nationalfamilyservice.org. Let's not waste another minute. Let's go right in with our opening song.
For our opening song today, let's go to Seattle, Washington, and sing along with Brian and Miyuki Granstrom as they play the song, Song of the Garden.
The Lord into his garden comes, the spices yield a rich perfume. The lilies grow and thrive, the lilies grow and thrive. Refreshing showers of grace divine from the Father flows to every vine, and makes the dead revive, and makes the dead revive. Oh, that this dry and barren ground in springs of water may abound. A fruitful soil become, a fruitful soil become. The desert blossoms as the rose, when the Savior conquers all his foes, and makes his people one, and makes his people one. Come, brethren, you that love the Lord, and taste the sweetness of his word. In Father's ways go on, in Father's ways go on. Our troubles and our trials here will only make us richer there. When we arrive at home, when we arrive at home.
Thank you, Brian and Miyuki, for that opening song. Now let's join Vasnio for our opening prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Beloved Heavenly Parents, we're so grateful for this beautiful morning, this Sunday morning, and we gathered here to receive your word, Heavenly Parent. Heavenly Parent, we really want to express our gratitude to being alive in the same time as true Father Moon and Mother Moon on earth, and we really want to prepare our hearts to receive your words. Please continue to lead us and guide us. And today we want to open our hearts to receive your word from our President Naokimi Ushoroda. And please allow us to be your true objects, to able to receive your word and put into practice, Heavenly Parent. Heavenly Parent, we're so grateful that we're standing on the shoulders of our giants, and we following our footsteps of our true parents, and we really want to learn deeply about their life and continue to carry on in our missions. Please bless all brothers and sisters gathered here today, this morning, and bless this moment as a one family under God. Please bless this time, and I offer this prayer. If it's in the name of all brothers and sisters gathered here in my name, Bas Antonio, and your blessed your family. Adieu and Amen.
Next, Let's head over to Cedar Falls, Iowa to hear the song Superheroes, performed by the Iowa Family Church Band, along with violinist Daniel Kim from Seattle, Washington.
All her life she has seen all the meaner side of me. He took away the prophet's dream for a prophet on the street. Now she's stronger than you know. A heart of steel starts to grow. All his life he's been told he'll be nothing when he's old. All the kicks and all the blows, he won't ever let it show, 'cause he's stronger than you know. A heart of steel starts to grow. You've been fighting for it all your life. You've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to fly. You've been fighting for it all your life. You've been working every day and night. That's how a superhero learns to fly. All the hurt and all the lies, all the tears that they cry. When the moment is just right, you see fire in their eyes. 'Cause he's stronger than you know. The heart of steel starts to grow. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to fly. You've been fighting for it all your life. You've been working every day and night. That's how a superhero learns to fly.
Wow, beautiful performance. Thank you so much. We're blown away. And thank you, Pastor Vasnio, for that opening prayer all the way from Kodiak. Really set the tone for our service today. And thank you, brothers and sisters, for engaging with us in the comment section. It's great to hear from you all the way from around the nation and the world. So we're grateful to have you with us. And now it is my pleasure to welcome up our speaker, the Family Federation President in America, Naokimi Shiroda. Welcome, President Naokimi.
Thank you, Jennifer. Happy Sunday, everyone. Today, I wanted to spend a little time to commemorate a significant event that happened in our community this past week. So on October 14th, 1950, which is 71 years ago, Father Moon was liberated from the notorious Hunnam prison concentration camp. At that time, he was only 30 years old. So let's take a look at his experience there. I'm going to read passages from his autobiography where he kind of talks about the different experiences that he had while he was in prison. Hunnam prison was a concentration camp for special laborers working in the Hunnam nitrogen fertilizer factory. During the next 2 years and 5 months, I underwent hard compulsory labor. Let's read a little bit more. On February 22, 1948, I was again taken into custody by the communist authorities. I was charged with being a spy for Syngman Rhee and with disturbing the social order. I was taken away in handcuffs. 3 days later, my head was shaved and I was placed in a prison cell. On May 20th, 3 months after being placed in Pyongyang prison, I was moved to Hunnam prison. So this is a story that happened right after World War II, which ended in 1945. Japan had at that time lost control over Korea, and it was divided at the 38th parallel, where the Soviet Union controlled the north and the US supported the south. So Father Moon was actually in Pyongyang sharing his ministry. Actually, he received the revelation while he was in the south saying that God wanted him to go towards the north. So he actually went to Pyongyang, and at that time, the communists was really against any kind of religion or sense of authority outside of the party. And so they imprisoned him and many others who were ministering or influencers that weren't completely aligned with the communist agenda. So at that time he was ministering in the north, and they basically captured him and put him in prison there. The prison sentence was 3 years long, and most of the prisoners would pretty much die from exhaustion or malnutrition. So when he was sentenced for 3 years, it was almost like a death sentence, because most people wouldn't survive that long. So definitely the circumstances were very challenging, and as tough as it is, there were different specific points that Father Moon mentions in his autobiography, which were particularly challenging. So I want to go over some of those. I guess there are different trials that he experienced in Hunnam prison. The first one that he mentioned is about illness. Let's read. I became extremely ill with symptoms similar to tuberculosis. However, I did not miss even a day of work at the factory. I knew that if I were absent, other prisoners would be held responsible for my share of the work. So just thinking about that, when I'm sick, I really don't have the energy to think about other people. So this is an amazing mindset, even in the midst of being sick and being in a concentration camp, that his heart went out to the other prisoners who would have to make up for make up for him if he was not present due to sickness. So he, even though he was feeling sick, he would still go to work. He would still work hard so that he wouldn't put extra burden on his fellow prison mates. Another challenge that he mentions in his experience there is about hunger. So let's read. The pain of hunger can only be known by those who have experienced it. When a person is hungry, a mere grain of rice becomes very precious. Even now, it makes me tense just to think of Hunnam. When you're hungry, you have such a longing for food that it makes you cry. I don't know if any of you have experienced severe hunger before. You know, we really can't compare, but I remember one time, this was during my youth days, I went through one day of doing a fast, and it was really, maybe because I was a teenager and my metabolism was very high, but I was really in pain from not, having to not eat for 24 hours. So got a little bit of taste, but I'm sure it was a totally different level in the concentration camp. Another challenge that Father Moon expresses in his autobiography is the feeling of injustice. Let's read. My prison number was 596. People called me number 596. On nights when I couldn't sleep, I would stare at the ceiling and repeat this number to myself over and over. If I said it quickly, it sounded very much like ogul or oguro, the Korean word used to describe the feeling of injustice. I truly had been imprisoned unjustly. I don't know if anyone experienced being wrongly accused or even wrongly punished, but I can imagine that it's so infuriating and sometimes very depressing, feeling, just unjustly accused or wronged, especially if you feel like you didn't deserve it. So definitely, Father went through so many of these kind of physical trials, but also these internal trials of being in a situation which, for doing God's will. So it's very understandable to feel the different kind of, just to try to imagine and connect with the different trials that he experienced there. So after 2.5 years at Hunnam prison, Father Moon was miraculously liberated. So let's take a look. The Korean War had begun while I was imprisoned in Hunnam. 16 nations, with the United States in the lead, formed a United Nations force and intervened in the Korean War. The night before my scheduled execution, the bombs fell like rain in the monsoon season. It was October 13th, 1950. The high walls around the prison began to fall, and the guards ran for their lives. Finally, the gate of the prison that had kept us in that place opened. At around 2:00 in the morning on the next day, I walked calmly out of Hunnam prison with dignity. This is really miraculous on many levels. I feel like God's protection was upon him. Not only did he survive Hunnam for 2.5 years, but apparently there was, the prisoners knew that the UN forces were coming. And so they started from a few days before to systematically execute the prisoners so that they wouldn't talk about the horrors or what they were doing. So they would literally kill them off before they could be freed. So he, as the story goes, he was scheduled to be executed on the day that he was liberated. Also, another miracle is that, there were so many bombs going off around and on the prison and so on, that so much so that all the guards ran away. The fact that he survived the bombings itself was also really miraculous. So, Father Moon's experience in Hunnam prison is an amazing story of overcoming different kinds of trials. But I wanted to identify and share some lessons that we can take from this story and apply it to our own lives. I know it's a very kind of extreme situation that might be hard to relate with, but I'm going to try to make some connections so that we can take some of the lessons from the story and apply it to our lives. So the first lesson that I noticed was about gratitude. Let's read. I questioned myself if I could love God more than my physical desire for a piece of bread in this environment. I decided to give a half of my daily ration to others in this environment. For 3 weeks, I shared a half of my meals with other prisoners. They were in shock. I always felt that half of the food was given to me as a ration, and the other half was a blessing given by heaven every day. Because it was grace, I ate with gratitude. With my gratitude for this half of the food, I could forget and let go of every hardship and suffering I faced. This really shows the power of perspective. It's kind of like the glass half full or glass half empty comparison, but this is to another level because it's like he received a glass half full, but what he did was, seeing that a quarter of it was full and a quarter of it was a gift from God. This last sentence really got to me. With my gratitude for this half of the food, I could forget and let go of every hardship and suffering I faced. So even though he was receiving, just like any other prisoner in that camp, just one meal a day, a bowl of rice, of grains, he would actually think that half of it was his actual portion and the other half was grace from God, that it was an abundance that was coming to him. And with that kind of heart, he could actually receive it with gratitude and forget all the sufferings from that day. Amazing. This reminded me of, Dr. Young, our regional president. He shared several times during our 6 a.m. morning devotions that the secret to gratitude is starting each day at 0, taking nothing for granted. Then you can appreciate everything that you do have. The fact that you can see, the fact that you can breathe, the fact that you have 2 hands, the fact that you have a wife or a husband or children, and really be grateful for every aspect of your life. Another powerful lesson from the story I got was the joy of giving. Let's read. The most valued possession in prison after food was a needle and thread. That was interesting. I wouldn't have guessed. Once, as I was carrying the bags of fertilizer, I discovered a needle stuck in one of the bags. From that time on, I became the seamster of Hunnam prison. It was such a joy to find that needle. Every day, I mended pants and knee breeches for other prisoners. Despite his miserable circumstances, he was able to find some way to live for the sake of others and bring joy to others and at the same time experience the joy of serving others from just having that one needle. Another thing I noticed from his story was his absolute determination to give 100% effort at all times. Let's read. I volunteered to do the most difficult tasks among all tasks that were assigned to prisoners. I determined, saying to myself, I will do the task that everyone in this prison hates the most. Since I work like this, I received the award there. Even today, I think that it was the best time of my life because I could attend God and always lived by his principles under the most miserable of situations. You know, this is very powerful to think about. You know, you're in prison, you're in a concentration camp that you don't deserve, and to determine to be the best worker in the concentration camp, you know, regardless of sickness, hunger, or illness, to determine to be the best, so much so that he was awarded the Worker of the Year 2 years in a row. So the motivation behind this is kind of key. He said that he really felt like this was a trial for him where he could practice still keeping God at the center of his life despite his external circumstances. That no matter what, he was going to give his all in every situation. And a final powerful lesson that I saw in the story was forgiveness. Let's read. I looked at prison as my best training ground. Could I truly love humanity? Could I truly love my enemy? While in prison, I was whipped, beaten, tortured, and bloodied. Yet I never resented those who beat me. The true God is a God who sacrificed his beloved Son to save his enemies. That is the love of God. God's way is to pray with tears for the one who holds the whip. This is why I did so and still do to this day. This is amazing. I mean, mind-boggling, actually. What a mindset. I feel like those who, you know, this kind of perspective or attitude really came through the example of Jesus Christ, where he offered his life and forgave those who were crucifying him. But Jesus was also was a medium through which we could experience for the first time God's true power of love. And I really feel like in order to be able to express or practice this kind of love, the only way you can do that is if you're able to tap into that, the source of this love, which is God. To even consider this kind of attitude and heart in the most difficult circumstances requires us to connect to the source of love. So that was an amazing story. Great lessons. Again, I just took tidbits. If you want to read the whole story, please take a look at the autobiography, Peace-Loving Global Citizen, that really goes into in-depth of all aspects of his story. But the question I have is, how can we apply the lessons from that story into our own lives? Most of us never experienced being in prison before. Or have we? You know, if you think more from situations in life and see different circumstances in our life as maybe our prisons that we create for ourselves, then actually there are ways that we can apply those lessons into our lives. So I really want to go into now how we can liberate ourselves from our own prisons that we may face. So for example, you might be experiencing being in a health prison. What do I mean by that? Maybe you're sick. Maybe you're bedridden. Maybe you have a particular illness that is really limiting your activity, your movement, your ability to do things. But in that situation, how could you actually free yourself from that prison? Because these are real circumstances that you're facing every day. You know, I remember, there were several situations where, you know, due to certain cancers, you know, even though they were young, a few of my friends that I knew, they died young. And one particular brother, I remember, he was so amazing. Despite this kind of knowing that he was facing death, he had such a generous heart, almost like consoling the people that were visiting him, crying in tears about having to lose him. He'd be like, don't worry, I'm good. How are you doing? And I felt like it was an example of how he didn't let his physical circumstances of his cancer situation or even facing death itself, he didn't let that define who he was. And instead, he kept his spirit and his heart, which was the essence of who he was. And he did that through practicing gratitude and always really thinking of others more than himself. So if you're in this kind of prison, I want you to think about not being defined by your sickness, but maintain subject over that sickness through your spirit and your heart, which is who you are. Another common prison that people experience is financial prison. And what I mean by this is not necessarily just that you are poor financially. That's a very common one, where maybe you don't have enough money. You feel like, I don't have the freedom to buy what I want or have the house that I want. But even those who have a lot of money can be imprisoned by finances. What do I mean by that? If you're so concerned about money that it determines what you do, why you do, how you do things, then now you're a slave to money. Money itself is not bad. But if money becomes subject over all your decision making, then now you are imprisoned by money itself. So don't become a slave to money. Money should never be the primary factor in decision making. It's kind of like Jesus's quote, trying to remember, but it's something about it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than a rich man to go to the kingdom of heaven, right? We need to be careful not to be imprisoned by our love for money. How do you do that? Well, it's through giving generously, tithing, gifting to others. By being able to give to others that money, you're no longer subjugated by it. You become subject over the money as soon as you give it to others. Another prison that is common that we experience is work prison. Many times in our jobs, we might feel stuck. We might be blaming our bosses, blaming, the company, basically saying that because of so-and-so, because of this situation, I can try as hard as I want, but nothing's going to change. They're not going to give me the promotion. There's all these rules. And it's very easy to get into this mindset that I have no power over my future in this company, right? But don't let your circumstance subjugate you into complacency. Find a way. Father Moon, he was in prison in a concentration camp, unjustly. And yet he determined to be the best worker there. It's crazy, right? But if you think of your, despite the challenging circumstance you might be in, if you work 100%, you will break through. This, by practicing persistence, you can overcome any kind of trial that you might face in the workplace. Finally, I'd like to go over another common prison, which is relationship prison. Many of us may experience being stuck or imprisoned by resentments that we hold against people, especially people who are close to us. Don't let resentments, past pains hold you hostage in your relationship. I remember one quote, holding a grudge against someone is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. right? The way out of this prison, one way out, is to practice forgiveness. So all of these lessons that we can see from Father's experience in Hunnam prison, we can actually apply to liberate ourselves from the prisons that we create in our own lives. But to be truly free, it's important that we learn how to be object to God and subject at the same time over our circumstances. What got Father Moon through the most difficult circumstances was he remained in his position as a child of God. And so despite the difficult circumstances, he was able to maintain that position and act accordingly with integrity. So similarly, when we're facing challenges, it's important to remember your position as a child, as a son or daughter of God, to strive to be Christ-like, and also not let the circumstances determine how you behave, that you are the subject over your circumstances. So what is the secret to liberating yourself from prison? Let's read. It was when I was suffering in prison that I felt God's love the most. In that place, I came to know truly, truly, God loves me. It is in the most serious and difficult place that you can meet God. You know, this is very counterintuitive, and I think if you haven't experienced, it's hard to understand, but truly, you know, when you are in the most miserable situation, if you simply get and know that God is with you in your deepest suffering, that he's right next to you, right with you, understands what you're going through, you can overcome any kind of suffering or struggle. There's this sense of connection, of being known, of being understood that defies all personal relationships with other people. And I really hope that you can experience that, not the suffering part, but in some cases, we all suffer in different ways. If you can simply channel those experiences and understand that God is with you in those struggles, in those trials, then you can really find true liberation in your heart. Father Moon went through unimaginable trials in his life, as did Mother Moon, who stood by his side her whole life. By observing how they dealt with their trials, we can gain hints as to how we can also deal with trials in our own lives. You know, maybe there's an area of your life where you feel stuck or imprisoned. It might be a health, financial, career, or maybe even a relationship. Whatever trial that you're facing right now, let's take a deep breath and apply these lessons, this power of gratitude, persistence, and forgiveness to liberate ourselves from those prisons. And let us remember to maintain objectivity in front of God and to always stand as subject over our circumstances. With that, may God bless you and your family this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Naokimi. Excellent message and very deep insights. If you liked what you heard today, please share it with your friends. Let's take a moment to reflect on this reflection question. What's one area of my life I currently feel stuck in? Let's take a minute. As you guys are reflecting on it, I'd like to welcome up some live reflections today. And today it's my pleasure to invite up Dr. William Seelig and Takanari Sonoda to join me in sharing their thoughts today. So please join me here. Hello, you two. How are you guys? Glad to see you.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. Yes, as we heard a lot from President Naokimi about being liberated from prison, both Father Moon's story and about some practical points in our own life. How was that message for you, Dr. Seelig?
It was a wonderful message. Thank you so much, President Naokimi. I really feel you've grown so much, and you really have doing a tremendous, great job as our president, following in the footsteps of many people, Michael Jenkins and Richard Busing and Tyler Hendricks. So it's a very important topic and personal too. I guess we all can resonate with this idea of being in prison. And I mean, we all have to kind of go to Hyungnam prison. We all have to find a way to deal with our worst fears and evil and overcome it. And you described it so well with gratitude, persistence, and forgiveness. Then we can overcome. And I was particularly touched by Father's testimony and how he dealt with it. I mean, he really suffered. This is just an astonishing story. Whether you're a member or not, you can't help but feel this man is a man of tremendous courage and faith, and he was able to find purpose even in the midst of such a terrible situation. And he found God. God was with him. There's no question that that's how he was able to deal with it. And I like the idea that he maintained his position as subject. That touches me too, because he never doubted who he was. I mean, this system tried to dehumanize him and turn him into a prisoner, but he refused. He washed himself every day. He prayed. He witnessed. He did all these things he kept his dignity. And I know many times we all heard True Father speak in public venues, and I had the privilege often of being in the backstage in the green room when Father would walk into a room of heads of state and Nobel laureates or President Bush or Gorbachev and all these incredible people, but Father was never intimidated. That's the point I want to make. He was never intimidated by these people. He always maintained his position as the subject, as the child of God who would take care of these people, no matter what. So there's so much there. Now, Kimi, I can't even begin to describe it all. The health mission too is something I was touched by, not to be defined by your health condition. No matter what it was. I've dealt with things in my past, but I refuse to let that define who I am. I'm not a sick person. I am still a child, a son of God, no matter the circumstances. And I used to put a rubber band on my wrist, and I would snap it to bring me to the present, but also I used it as a reminder to say, okay, whatever the circumstance, this is going to bring me back to the fact that I'm a son of God. So whether I'm witnessing or fundraising or whatever the circumstance, I snap that rubber band and bang, the negativity disappears, all the terrible things that people might say. No, I'm a son of God, and I thank you, and I can do anything. So a lot of food for thought. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Wow, deep reflection. Yeah, it's so hard to just think of Father's experience. I'm thinking of, even for like myself, right? Like for me, you want to be, I don't know, everyone thinks really highly of themselves. I really feel like sometimes when you think, oh, it's like, yeah, maybe I could overcome something like that, but it's so deep and so incredible how like it's the suffering that he endured is so amazing, but how he endured it, that's really, I think, a testament to Father's character and how much he loved God. And that's what he wanted to focus on. And yeah, how even in my own life, considering what's I'm struggling with, how that can relate to me too. So I appreciate your little rubber band example. It's a good tip. And yeah, Takanari, what about you? What comes up for you?
Yes. What came up for me, I think, what was, all the things that President Naokimi shared of Father Moon's life in prison stood out. But one thing that stood out to me in particular was when Father Moon was given this portion of food, and he will give a half away to someone, and thinking that actually, one fourth of it's actually from God, and the other portion is actually what I was actually given. So even the circumstances that might be given, actually, part of it's actually God's blessing that was given. And I don't know, that kind of like really changed my mind of like different situations that I was in. I was like, oh, maybe I was only supposed to receive only this much, but because of God, I was able to receive this much more. And also President Naokimi also talked about his friend who was not in a good, his health was in a good situation. And actually, my mom personally had cancer, and she passed away already when I was 10. But it made me kind of rethink about, I was 10, but and she had cancer. She had a couple of cancers, but I never knew that, actually. I never knew that. The way she cooked or was with me, she never really showed that she was sick. And recently, it was my parents' marriage anniversary, and my dad was kind of sharing me about my mom and how she was. I was 10, so I wasn't aware of a lot of things, and he was kind of sharing me about that and how my mom, even though she was sick, he worked hard for me. And I was kind of thinking about, oh, like even though she was sick, she had the energy. She had the energy to she wasn't tied down by her physical condition, and wanted to take care of me, but also take care of other people as well while she was alive. And so yeah, that kind of made me reflect again upon that. And I'm currently a little bit stopping school because I'm still looking for what I want to do. And but I'm grateful. I have a roof over my head. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like gratitude is such a powerful thing. And starting from zero, I thought that was another amazing point. I've been trying to start prayers in the morning recently. It's been a difficult thing, prayer, but something I've been kind of starting again. And yeah, it's definitely going back to zero. I think I find myself in that, and seeing like being grateful for that, everything that's coming. I have nothing, so today is a new day. And so I thought that was another great point. Yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you, Takanari, for coming on, and also for sharing your heart and your experience with your own mother. And it's the amazing testament and love of parents to be able to give even when they have nothing. And I think that's a powerful and precious experience that you shared with us. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Seelig. Thank you, Takanari, for being here and sharing your thoughts today. I'd like to move on to the challenge of the week. So this week, I'd like to encourage you all, please take one action this week to break free from your own prison. Take one action this week to break free And I'd also like to mention, if you would like to participate in the service by prayer or these live reflections, please contact your local pastor. And if you'd like to contribute a musical offering, you can email music@nationalfamilyservice.org. All right, let's move on to our closing prayer.
Now let's join Rika Otsubo for our closing prayer.
Good morning, everybody. Please join me in prayer. Dear our most beloved Heavenly Parents, true parents, Jesus, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for gathering all of your sons and daughters, my brothers and sisters, onto today's National Sunday Service, Heavenly Parents. Today, our President Naokimi talked about our true father in Hungnam Prison, Heavenly Parents. It's been 71 years, but still yet his heart and his love of gratitude, persistence, and forgiveness still stays within each and every single one of our hearts, Heavenly Parents. I pray that each one of us here can really be able to go more deeper into understanding this heart and inheriting on how we can practice gratitude, being more grateful today than yesterday, and yet more grateful tomorrow than today, Heavenly Parents. Like everyone mentioned, gratitude is such an amazing practice that we can do, where it's a very strong superpower, Heavenly Parents, that we can each have to really be grateful for the things that we have in our life. I pray that we can be able to choose to forgive others, choose to love others instead of hating or having resentment, Heavenly Parents. Whenever we are in a situation where we feel like we are in a prison or building up this prison within ourselves, Heavenly Parents, I pray that we can be able to invite you into our day, invite you into our life, where we can be able to really share this together with you, Heavenly Parents, because as our parents, you want to go through this together with us. And like President Naokimi mentioned, Heavenly Parents, He is always there, He is constantly there. And when we're able to think about your heart, Heavenly Parents, your heart of going through all of this together with us, then we can bring ourselves to a better place, Heavenly Parents, because we're not alone. None of us here are alone, Heavenly Parents. I know everybody here who is watching National Service, we have something going on in our lives. Everyone is going through something. Everyone has their own situation, Heavenly Parents. But each one of us also has you in our lives. And I pray that we can be able to go to you and really be able to have this parent-child relationship together with you, Heavenly Parents. I pray that we can be able to reflect upon this question, how we can be able to liberate ourselves from this prison that we are all in. And I pray that we can be able to have a victorious week where we're able to overcome some of these things that we're going through in life, Heavenly Parents, with the power of gratitude, power of persistence, and power of forgiveness, Heavenly Parents. Thank you for always being here together with us and really trusting us, loving us, and it's being this amazing parent for all of us here, Heavenly Parents. Thank you so much for everything. We love you and we thank you so much. I like in this prayer in all of our names, and my name is Rika Otsubo, daughter of Makoto and Chiseka Otsubo, blessed with your family. Achu.
And for our closing song today, we're off to Clifton, New Jersey for the Clifton Family Church Band's performance of the song, I Saw the Light.
I wandered so aimless, life filled with sin. I wouldn't let my dear Savior in. Then Jesus came like a stranger in the night. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Oh, I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside.
Thank you, Rika, all the way from Hawaii, giving us a beautiful prayer, closing us off, and for the Clifton Family Church for giving us that beautiful offering song. And thank you all for joining us today on another National Family Service. You can go to nationalfamilyservice.org and click Give to support this ministry if you like what we see. We love putting it on for you. It's also at nationalfamilyservice.org/donate, or very easily type #donate right here in the Facebook chat. If you gained something meaningful today, if you liked what you saw, please share the link to the sermon with your friends, neighbors, coworkers, or just hit share right on Facebook right here. And we are so happy, and God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday right here at the National Family Service. Goodbye, everybody.
joy.